Grim Dawn crossbow builds, yeah.
Hello, people of Earth. Welcome to Grim Dawn Crossbow Builds, where that's what we talk about, crossbow builds for the ARPG Grim Dawn. Our character today is a tactician. That's the combination of a soldier and an inquisitor. We're using the Ugdenbog Boltthrower weapon for Pierce Cadence, combined with the Goredrinker set from the Shattered Realm. The result is an excellent endgame boss killer which eats nemesis for breakfast. The gameplay is very simple with 4 main buttons: Word of Renewal, Word of Pain on right click for pierce resistance reduction, Cadence on left click, and War Cry. Let's look at our skills. We are mainly a soldier with the entire Cadence line hard capped, that being Cadence, Fighting Form, and Deadly Momentum. Predictably, we have Cadence bound to Assassin's Mark for Pierce Resistance Shred. Our other soldier skill is War Cry, which reduces incoming damage and gives global resistance shred through the mutator Terrify. We also have 1 point in Break Morale for the skill Disruption. Our last major investment in the soldier tree is Field Command for OA, DA, and increased armor, and in Squad Tactics for a global damage buff and attack speed. Our defensive buffs at the bottom all have a few points in them. Scars of Battle gives armor absorption, bleeding, stun, and freeze resistance. Decorated Soldier gives elemental and slow resistance. Veterancy gives life regen, and military conditioning gives extra hit points. At the top, Fighting Spirit is active about half the time, adding to our already crazy offensive ability. And our weapon pool skills buff our non-cadence hits. These have a chance to go off on the first and second hits of the cadence sequence. Zul'Han's Technique and Markovian's Advantage. Blades of Wrath is bound to this one. On the Inquisitor side, our main skill is Word of Pain, which activates Rend for bleeding resistance reduction. We have a couple of points in Word of Agony to increase the radius of the skill. And Death Sentence is nearly hard capped for the resistance reduction. Word of Renewal is our defensive buff and healing spell, and our two-handed weapon allows us to use Word of Arms, which reduces the cooldown. Vigor gives health, armor, and resistances, while Steel Resolve gives us more flat damage and Ether and Chaos resistance. Our exclusive aura is Aura of Conviction, mainly for the pierce damage buff, and we have a few points in the Inquisitor weapon pool skills as well. Storm Spread has additional chance to trigger from our weapon, so this activates our Living Shadow proc. Chilling Rounds and Bursting Round also have 1 point each. Ranged Expertise is nearly hard capped for pierce damage and attack speed, and a point in Deadly Aim ensures that we're critting most of the time, which is important for our devotion procs to go off. On this build, Deadly Aim doesn't require much investment because we're already critting most of the time. Let's see what our devotions are. We're primarily focused on the southeast of the map since that's where the Pierce and Bleed devotions are, with the obligatory Kraken and Hydra since we're running a crossbow. You can start with a point in yellow to start leveling the Assassin's Blade. Assassin's Mark is our most important devotion proc. Then you can take Empty Throne for resistances and purple points, Assassin for pierce damage and Blades of Wrath, Crane for reflect resist and some other resistances, Toad for life leech. Then you can go back to the crossroads, take a point in blue, and take a small constellation that gives you blue points. The eel is a nice one. You'll also need green points, so you can stick a point in green and pick up something like the spider. That will allow you to take Kraken, which conveniently gives us some red points, another red point at the crossroads, and you can take the Hydra. You can get rid of Spider, take Harvestman's Scythe, and remove the eel. Those refunded points will allow us to work towards Huntress and our capstone, Unknown Soldier. This proc gives us invincible minions which add to our DPS, and also reduce incoming damage when War Cry is on cooldown. And now for our gear. Our main item is the Ugdenbog Boltthrower. This is a monster infrequent that comes from the Ugdenbog areas, and as of the last patch, you have to be hostile with Barrowholm to get it. It will now only appear from the Wendigo altar inside the Barrowholm cellar. So make sure you go hostile with Barrowholm on ultimate difficulty, unless you have another character you can farm these with. You're generally looking for the suffix of alacrity, which is the highest attack speed boost combined with a rare prefix. This one here is essentially the best one that you'll find unless you get a double rare. The prefix Relentless gives us 4 extra points in cadence, making it very easy to hard cap and attack speed on top of that. So this single item gives us +8 to cadence and 41% attack speed. But any rare prefix that buffs physical or pierce damage is pretty much fine. On weapon swap, I have the second best one that I found, the Tyrant's Ugdenbog Boltthrower of Alacrity. This weapon gives pierce, bleed, and crit damage to cadence and storm spread. Complementing this weapon is the Goredrinker set, which unfortunately has no blueprint and drops only in the Shattered Realm. You can at least transmute set pieces, which is what I did. If I recall correctly, I wound up with 3 copies of the chest armor. Once you have all the pieces together, the set bonuses are quite substantial, giving more weapon damage and bleeding damage to cadence, and more pierce and bleeding resistance shred to Word of Pain. This occupies the helm, amulet, shoulder, and chest armor slots. Our first ring is the Mythical Jackson's Lucky Bullet, also a random drop, which gives us another weapon pool skill called Lucky Shot. Our other ring is the more common epic item, Mythical Blackwatch Seal, supporting pierce cadence. For gloves, we also have an epic item, the Mythical Shadow's Grasp. It's slim pickings for pierce damage gloves. I'm hoping that more of them appear in Fangs of Astrakarn, but for the moment, it's basically these or some crafted gloves. I made a bunch of Plague Guard grips, hoping to get a rare something of alacrity, but nothing really turned up. Our boots are the Mythical Windshear Greaves, helping us to hard cap fighting form and giving us a lot of movement speed. Crafted boots with relevant affixes would also be a good choice here. Our medal is another MI, the Gutworm's Mark. This comes from a hidden boss in the Burwitch outskirts area. He can be very hard in the early game, so you might want to wait until later to pick this up. When you do, it gives skill points to deadly momentum and pierce and bleeding damage to cadence. Our belt is the Mythical Pack of Treacherous Means. Thankfully, this one has a blueprint, so if you've been playing for a while, you can just craft it. This gives us points to ranged expertise, fighting form, and a ranged weapon passive bonus. The relic slot is quite flexible on this build. You can basically use anything that strikes your fancy. Serenity is always good, and it helps us not die from reflected bleeding damage. Another good choice is Azrakah's Epoch, which gives a useful crit proc. I'd like to also share a few words about leveling. Cadence gets a bad rap as a leveling skill, but I had a pretty good time playing this build exactly the same from start to finish. Before you find a bolt thrower, you can pick up a Gavlin's crossbow. This comes from a corpse near the Whitemire Rift, and it's a respectable early game pierce weapon. If you're lucky like I was, you might find the level 20 version of the Shadow's Grasp, our endgame gloves. If you do monster totems in the early game, you're pretty likely to find some blues that are relevant for your build. But if RN Jesus does not favor you, never fear. Flesh warped items are very easy to find near Homestead, and they're great for leveling just about any soldier build. The helm gives weapon damage to Warcry, and the shoulders buff cadence. When you get to Ashes of Malmouth, in addition to your obvious bolt thrower, you'll find a zillion Ugdenbog girdles, a good leveling belt for just about any soldier, unless you're trying to do acid damage. For leveling pants, I recommend doing the Hidden Path quest and getting some Soleil Sect leggards. The attack damage converted to health and the freeze resistance are great for any kind of auto attacker. Also in Ugdenbog, I recommend doing all of the Coven quests so you can use their great faction gear. The Coven Combatant's Chest Guard is available at level 65, giving flat damage and bonuses to Deadly Momentum and Aura of Conviction. Their shoulder piece, the Combatant Spalders, are also really good for this build. In your jewelry slots, you can use standard items like the Leovinus Ring, and when you get to level 40, you can pick up a Blade Seal from Homestead. That gives attack speed and a buff to Zul'Han's Technique. In the Homestead area, it's probably also worth a trip to the Pine Barrens to pick up some Mogara's Fangs, with flat damage and +1 to all soldier skills. For boots, you'll probably wind up using standard faction items like the Legion boots or the Rewari Greaves. I used the Epic Bloodhound Greaves for a while. I would level Cadence first, and then Word of Pain with Death Sentence and Aura of Conviction. And now for an SR run.
The shadow